Okay, here we go.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the action in the Champions Motorsport Racing Virtual World Sports Car Championship for the 1991 season. We are back in action once again, and this time we head to Sebring for the 1.2 hours in the 1991 Group C era of racing. This is where the kings and queens of Group C sports car racing on R Factor 2 live and breathe, and we are ready for a spectacular night of race action ahead of us in the Sebring 1.2 hours. I'm Jake Sanson. Beside me once again is Troy Uyan. We are in for an absolutely terrific show tonight.
Yeah, we have obviously all the big players here. We got Abdallah, Borman, Kowalski, Uyan, Smith, Angelides. All the big players in our Daytona 91 championship are back. They're ready for action. We have the very, very bumpy, but also beautifully modeled Sebring ready to take center stage here for our Group C beasts.
So obviously, as the drivers are getting themselves underway and ready for the action tonight, Sebring provides itself to be quite the technical challenge. There's a lot of fast straights and a lot of fast sweepers with some real technical challenges in terms of the mechanical grip of the course. So we could find ourselves in for a very interesting and intriguing battle tonight, as several drivers are going to be trying to set the pace. We're just watching Marwan El Idrisi in the gasoline aftershave Nissan, is trying to get a decent time on the board, and that is a 1:47.059 to really set the benchmark for the other drivers out there. Hall, Whitehead, De Bruyn, and Uyan are all trying. Oh my goodness, a big accident after the lap for Marwan El Idrisi. So that's a big shock, actually. Straight after setting the pace, he has now had a monumental accident after time qualifying. So Ahmed Abdallah, who was leading overall, is now obviously leading in the Purist category. And we saw how brilliantly he charged his way back through the field at Daytona back in January, from the back of the field up to the top three. Hopefully, Ahmed Abdallah is going to have a much stronger time of it this time. If he gets a decent run in qualifying from the get-go, he could even take the victory in the Purist category.
Yeah, Abdallah, one of the dark horses, obviously didn't have the qualifying last time, but charged through in some spectacular thing. Him and Manuel Stoll absolutely charged through the field in the Sauber. The Sauber will still be a strong car here, but we don't have, you know, the majority of the lap being full throttle running sort of the same way it is at Daytona with those long straights and bankings. However, there are no shortage of straights here at Sebring as well in the back section. Even though there are some sweepers, it is pretty much flat out. The back straight is obviously flat out into the Sunset Bend into turn 1, down to turn 2. So there's a lot of straight line running, a lot of opportunity for the Sauber to stretch its legs. And Abdallah, in qualifying, will be able to set the pace along with Ben Borman and Kowalski in the Purist category and actually be able to stretch their legs, get a good starting position. Now, what can they do with a good starting position? We know they can charge. What if they're already there?
So obviously Ahmed Abdallah is going to go on pure point in the Purist category. He's actually second overall with that lap time, just 0.035 of a second off the pace of Marwan El Idrisi. So we're already pushing right up to the sharp end. Ben Borman, who is second in the Purist category, is actually third overall in the Peugeot. Then Brian Hall of the Hall Brothers Racing Jaguar is fourth overall, but second in the Pro category. So we're definitely going to have some very exciting battles for the competitors. The AM drivers are going to be out there on the course as well. Whoops. A bit of a moment there for Ahmed Abdallah as he loses the back end of the car, trying to find that extra pace. Yes, he is still the fastest in the group, but that really will have compromised him. And he's now going to have to reset with 7 minutes to go in qualifying.
And we're looking at Smith trying to make his own mark in the Purist category. Borman and Abdallah obviously neck and neck in the Purist category, but also right there with Eladrisi. So they are in different categories. The Purists, again, as a reminder from last time, they have the manual clutch. They're using a full H pattern. So it's a very busy, busy experience for the Purist drivers. The pros are on a typical sequential. They do have an automatic clutch and a shift delay to compensate for that. And I did bring up a question, actually, during the last stream. Is it actually an advantage with the Purist to be on the H pattern? And obviously you wouldn't really think so, but because of the shift delay that the pros have, and if a Purist driver is extremely comfortable with skip shifting and other things they have control over with an H pattern. From Ben Borman, he thinks there is an advantage if you're comfortable, but I would think, again, you're very, very busy in there. There's so many more inputs to worry about. So if you're very comfortable and if you're willing to take on the challenge, there's some indication that maybe it is an advantage to have more control over these, looser, less modern tech cars where they're so precise and accurate. They're a little bit looser, and it's by feel. And Ben Borman thinks when you are using the H pattern and you have the opportunity to skip shift or rev match on your own, you get a little bit more of that feel, and it does, give you one with the car a little bit more and give you an advantage.
So Ross Smith obviously managing to get himself the third best time in the Purist category, fourth overall in the Noon Racing Peugeot. So an obvious good start for him. There is Ben Borman doing a fantastic job so far in the first part of the season for the Nookie Monsters in the Peugeot 905. Fabulous car that. And great to see that Ben Borman is already pushing very much from the get-go. Massive thank you to everybody at Storm Gang Simulations and the Apex Modding for putting in all the excellent work that they continue to do here this weekend. It's going to be an interesting display again on the Sebring circuit. Very different in style, Troy, to what we saw at Daytona. This is a very different technical challenge. The race is half the length. It's 1.2 hours rather than 2.4, but we will have day to night running over the course of the race because of the accelerated duration of time compressed into the 1.2 hours. So it will have the full simulation feel of a 12-hour race, but condensed into 1.2 hours. And the circuit itself is very difficult by comparison. There's no major undulation changes. There's no elevation in camber, but the tires really do take a pounding around this place because you are flat on the throttle for some of these corners. Even turn one, the tires are getting so much punishment, particularly on the outer side of the car.
And you could see as Borman came through the sunset bend, how bumpy and how crazy the suspension was working to get him around that corner. He's obviously pushing as hard as he can. He's leaning on the tires as much as he dare, and the suspension is just doing so much work. So we will see, the technical challenge of how people have set up their cars to compensate with how bumpy the track is. And the password for today's race actually references the bumps on the track. Has been the hot topic, to get into the server. It is a technical challenge. It's a setup challenge. Sebring's one of my favorite tracks, and depending on how accurately modeled the version is, it starts to become less of my favorite track if it's accurately modeled to the fact that there's so many bumps, right? So a bit of a cheeky answer there. However, Ben Borman does go purple in sectors 1 and 2, by the way. And what we have from a traffic perspective, we have about 36, 37 cars on track. I think that's a little bit less than we had in Daytona. On top of that, though, in my personal experience, Sebring is a little kinder to traffic, just because there's a lot more opportunity to pass. In Daytona, you have kind of 2, maybe 3 obvious places to negotiate with lap traffic. On Sebring, we have before and after sunset, into before tier 1, where Borman is right now, as he does not pit pole, but will pull off to the side with a personal best. Abdallah still retains the overall lead with a 46.5, Borman 46.8. So very close, not quite enough. But also you have leading to the first hairpin and the second hairpin are both easy places to negotiate with lap traffic. So I almost find, in personal experience, that Sebring is kinder to a busier track than Daytona is.
It certainly does look that way in terms of the first part of qualifying. So we finish up. There is Marwan El Idrisi, the man who is leading the pro category in the gasoline aftershave brothers Nissan. And fabulous performance. Some of these team names, they really do push the limits of what we were expecting to hear from a race team name. I mean, fair play. That's that team name was devised in a pub, if ever there was one. And Marwan El Idrisi, very quick at the moment, a 147 flat for him, which is still good enough for the third best time overall. He hasn't quite been able to get to the same sort of pace as Abdallah in the Sauber Mercedes or Borman in the Peugeot, but certainly Marwan El Idrisi looking very comfortable at present.
Yeah, and we had El Idrisi was setting the initial pace, and our purists have our top two purists are seemingly in a league of their own compared to the third purist, and down 2 seconds clear of purist number 3, which is Ross Smith. Abdallah and Borman are set to have a mega fight with the pace that they're showing, and however, might there be an overall battle with El Idrisi, because El Idrisi is pacing the pro field by over a second to Whitehead, and then 0.6 to Hall, now 0.4 to Hall, and then another 1.2 seconds to Uyan. So the gaps here are a lot bigger than we saw in Daytona as well, which should be noted.
Well, it's a very tricky circuit by comparison, but it's very easy to get it wrong here. Whereas in Daytona, you can sort of get a bit of a flow. This circuit is not easy to learn. A lot of drivers actually find that it's very tough to get into a decent rhythm here because the circuit does catch you out from corner to corner. Marwan El Idrisi has just banged in his personal best, a 147.819. Or certainly his last lap, was his a 147.819. His personal best is a 147.0. Only the two purists, Ahmed Abdallah and Ben Borman, have managed to break the 147 mark. Here's George Angelidis, who is currently third in the pro category. Fifth, I should say, in the purist category as he comes through now to finish up with a 146.5 being his best. So George Angelidis 11th overall in the Lucky Strike Mazda. But there is still going to be some interesting challenges. In the AM category, it is actually Venter who has come through to the top spot. Paul J. Venter just in front of Jacques Vermeulen, who is second in the class, then in front of John Mayer, who is 18th overall, and then we have Guy Sever running in fourth in the category in front of Tom Aiken and Barry DiMarzo, and then we have the next two drivers in the mix there are Tom Mountjoy and Dan Minges, but a fabulous performance there from Pedro Cruz Gomez, who has come through for fifth in class, so that is fifth in the pro category. And that's ninth overall. So it is going to be very interesting between the drivers in the category. But certainly between the top three cars, there is half a second. But another second and a bit back to Jason Whitehead in the Storm Rider Nissan. So there are three cars that are going to be far and away faster than anybody else in the mix, as the battle is going to get very intense come the start of the race. Night sets here at Sebring, and it's going to be Ahmed Abdallah from Ben Borman, and then it is Ross Smith, third in category, in front of Jacob Kowalski in the Sauber Mercedes. George Angelidis, 11th overall, and then in the mix. Here is the qualifying performance then in each category. Ahmed Abdallah in front of Marwan El Idrisi and Ben Borman. So El Idrisi actually popped up with the fastest time he has set in the very final lap. Jason Whitehead coming through in fourth place in front of Brian Hall and Ross Smith. Then Wouter de Bruin in front of Pedro Cruz Gomez, Jacob Kowalski, and John Uyan in the Silk Cut Jaguar in 10th place. Behind them, it's George Angelidis in the Lucky Strike Mazda, then Paul J. Venter in the Logistical Nightmare Mazda, Gilles Lalonde and Jacques Vermeulen from Joe Miller and Mark Jones, Jerry Chen going well in the Flying Kiwi Porsche, John Mayer in 18th place in front of Manuel Stoll and James Andrew in the Jaguars of Yesteryear car. Then it's Matthew Overton in the Dark Thunder Jag, Steve Carman and Guy Sever from Tom Aiken and Peter Mayer, Barry DiMarzo and Tom Mountjoy from Dan Minges, Stephen Miller, and Maximilian Petrovsky. And then the final few drivers in the mix after those 30 cars, it is Oscar Dancourt in front of Brad Nielsen Vestergaard, Eugene Mazur in the number 6, although there were 3 drivers who did not set times. Expect them to charge forward as well. Eric Moyne in the Acuri Mistral, Ed Jones, and Brandon Gant. 3 drivers who have not set times, but are sure to be charging their way through the pack if the opportunity arises. So it will definitely be tricky. Let's head over to the driver's briefing to see how things are playing out.
enough to avoid the broadcast of random noises. For the start, the pole sitter dictates the pace. That would be Ahmed. Please keep a speed of around 100 kilometers an hour. You try to stay approximately 1 car length behind the car in front of you, single file. Keep the distance consistent, no weaving or excessive braking. And the start line is the start-finish line. So we're having one full formation lap. And then when you cross the line, then you can start racing and overtaking. So we're going to have an orange zone from the first green lap. So from the moment that we start racing all the way till turn 6, that is the big bend. That's the right-hander before the hairpin at the back under the Corvette bridge, I think. So you can still pass under orange zone and overtake, but if you've deemed that fault, penalties are double. Blue flag. Driver does not have to get out of the way, but may not compete with the driver that is lapping him. So if the driver coming in for a pass goes on the inside, you cannot block. You have to let them go. And please be respectful and try to not create incidents under blue flag. General rule of thumb is that the slower driver stays on the racing line, and then the faster car overtakes around him. There are plenty of opportunities here. Let's not try to do it in places where they are a little bit sketchy. Track limits, here they are, they're self-policed on the track. I think you have 4 track cuts, and then you get a penalty. Just to reiterate, if in case that there are extravagant cases where their track limits for some reason are not imposed on your car, and you're found out that you're cutting through or finding an exploit, you will be deemed at fault. So general rule of thumb, always 1 tire on the racing surface. Curbs are considered part of the racing surface. Driver decision on pitting for tires and fuel, it's up to you. There's no obligatory pit stop. You can do whatever you want. Remember, there's no pit speed limiter, which means that it's up to you to be driving in the pit lane responsibly and not crashing. These cars do not stop from 300 kilometers an hour to 0 immediately. So please take care of that when you're going into the pit lane, especially the times where it is busy. In the case of an incident, please apply the golden rule of racing and return to the position to the guy that you hit, or just let him by. It is not necessary, but I mean, you will remove or reduce your penalty in case of an IRR fight. You still feel that somebody wronged you, you can still file an IRR with the general competition rules. We have a couple of penalties here. I think I demonstrated where or how they're going to be served in the practice, but generally you can come in after the first green lap. So not at the end of the formation lap. So when you take the green and it's racing, this is when you can come to serve your penalty. You have 3 laps to do that. So that would be in your dashboard, it would be up till lap 4, where you can actually complete the end of lap 4. So I guess that would be lap 5, entering lap 5, where you can actually come for your penalty. The penalty will be served in front of the safety car, that area on the outmost right of the track, or behind the safety car, within the pit lane. So please be mindful of that as well. The race includes darkness. Please ensure you have your headlights working. Escape means over. Don't hit escape if you have any issues. Either Control Alt Delete Killer Factor 2 and rejoin, or unplug your network cable and put it back in. You will be 2 laps down, but at least you can still race for points. If you get DQ'd for any reason, I can't un-DQ you because I'm racing. And right now I want us to do a pit box check with everybody. And also for those of you that are in manual, I want you to just come in on the start the session, and I want us to do a pattern. Let's do a clutch in, third, second, first, and fourth. Okay, so we're gonna do again another pattern. So third, second, first, and fourth. Okay, all right. So Anybody else, if they have any questions? Other than that, we can get to the pit box check.
George, Paul,
Yeah.
I just have a question. I saw something about the penalties that I have to serve some sort of penalty. I just want clarity of what I need to do.
Yeah, so
So excellent stuff ahead of us as we battle away for the supremacy here at the Virtual World Sports Car Championship from Champion Motorsports Racing here at Sebring. And what a evocative racetrack this place is. Some big racing corners on what has proved to be a phenomenal race circuit. Some big overtaking opportunities here as well. We're going to see several drivers making attempts into Cunningham and into Tower in particular. On the run to Jean de Bien for turn 15, as it's also known, and then up towards Le Mans. And then along, of course, the Almond Straight, there's going to be an interesting run. A few drivers may try an overtaking move or two into Sunset, because that is not just the final chance to make the overtake on the lap, but also there could be a few drivers with some big cojones out there, Troy. It's going to be interesting to see if anyone can make the overtaking move there. But we could see quite a few wily foxes on track.
You have obviously the huge draft coming off of Le Mans. If you get a better run through 15, 16 onto the back straight, it is very tempting to try to get alongside, but it's not the heaviest of braking zones, so you do need to have like a good overlap before you chuck it. But it's also such a wide corner. It's a very, very wide corner. Well, the racing line, or the ideal place you want to be, is not so wide, but the surfaces as a whole, there's a lot of extra track there to negotiate, do up and unders. It's one of the best corners on the track, Sunset. It's so fun.
And this circuit in particular is definitely going to test the driver's ability. Here's what's coming up over the course of the next few weeks. We have here the action at the 1.2 hours of Sebring. We go again next week for the Virtual World Sports Car Championship itself. The modern hypercars and GTs will battle away in a similar race. And then we'll have to wait a little bit until the 2nd of April before we get the 1 hour of Long Beach. And then we will return to the 1991 Championship Brigade on April the 16th for the 230 kilometers of Suzuka in Japan. Some great races ahead of us in VWSC. Here are the compounds of tires to choose from. Everybody is pretty much on the same, except for the Mazda 787B, Troy, who are on the super softs as opposed to the softs.
Yeah, so I really wanted to illustrate a lot of the effort that's gone into the realism and simulating how things were in 91 that the guys have done over at Storm Gang Simulations. So to kick us off, the Saubers are on the Goodyear soft and hard tires. The Porsches are the only car on the grid that actually have a choice of tire manufacturers. There are Yokohama Porsches that will just have a hard compound, and there are Goodyear Porsches that will have a soft and a hard compound, same as the Sauber. The Yokohama hard compound, technically, arguably, a better racing tire, has more life later into the stint. However, their qualifying is obviously quite hindered because they don't actually have a soft compound. So there's definitely a choice there. The default, if you're a Porsche driver and hearing this for the first time, the default is the Goodyear. You have to opt into being the Yokohama when you load into the server. On the Jaguar side and the Nissan side, we share the same Goodyear tires as the Sauber and the Porsche. Definitely, that's the predominant tire, manufacturer and set that the cars have. 4 out of the 6 cars have the Goodyear soft hard. The exceptions being, of course, the Porsche on the Yokohama. The Peugeot also has a soft tire and a hard tire, but it's on the Michelin side. They're very, very similar to the Goodyear in more ways than one. And then the Mazda is, of course, always has to be a little bit different. The Dunlops on the Mazda, they have a hard tire, a racing tire, as well as they're the only ones who basically have essentially a qualifying tire, true qualifying tire, super soft tire, that they won't really be racing on at all, even with an alternate strategy. So the Mazdas are as usual, a little bit different, and there's always a little bit of an asterisk when talking about them. They have the Dunlops, so we have 4 tire manufacturers, even though a majority are on the Goodyear soft hard setup.
So it certainly could make things very interesting in terms of battling away for position. We could have a very interesting race ahead of us, and it's very likely to see what is going to come our way. But obviously, once the warm-up session is finally completed, we will be able to battle away for supremacy 1.2 hours on the Sebring circuit, and it will definitely be very exciting indeed. Here the cars are coming out onto the circuit now, having had their driver's briefing and having everything set up and prepared. We're going to have the 3 classes of driver battle away together, the pros, the purists, and the AM class, but all of them will be in the beautiful 1991 Group C sports cars for the Virtual World Sports Car Championship, historic 1991 championship season. Daytona was pretty awesome. Now we are going to get the flavor and the thunder of the Sebring 1.2 hours, and we will have some terrific race action as the green flag flies on the top of the course. So the drivers will go around, obviously, for their 1 rolling lap of formation, and then we will be able to go racing. They are separated by class, obviously, so we are going to see Ahmed Abdallah in pole position from Ben Borman, as he will run there in position in the Purist category. We're obviously going to see all of the drivers staggering together. In fact, that is Ahmed Abdallah in his pole position. And where is... they will go as they were across the categories, so I do apologize. So it will be Ahmed Abdallah in pole position from Marwan El Idrisi, Sauber versus Nissan on the front row of the starting grid. Then it will be Ben Borman in the Peugeot and Jason Whitehead in the Storm Rider Nissan. Brian Hall in the Hall Brothers Jag will be in 5th place, along with the Noon Racing Peugeot of Ross Smith in P6. Then Wouter de Bruin in the Porsche, along with Pedro Crulas Gomez in the Sauber. Jacob Kowalski in his own team run Sauber Mercedes, and then John Uyan in the CMS Pro Jaguar in P10. George Angelidis in the Lucky Strike Mazda will be alongside Paul J. Venter. Gilles Lalonde will be beside Jacques Vermeulen, and then Joe Miller from Mark Jones, Jerry Chen from John Mayer, Matt and James Andrew completing the top 20. Then there'll be Matthew Overton and Steve Carman from Guy Sever and Tom Aiken, Peter Mayer and Barry DeMarzo from Tom Mountjoy and Dan Minguez, Stephen Miller, Oscar Dancourt, Brad Nielsen Vesterble, Eric Moyne, Ed Jones, Brandon Gant, and Maximilian Petravki. It'll be an interesting battle all the way through as we continue to challenge for the victory up at the top step. Is it going to be Ahmed Abdallah, or will it go the way of Marwan El Idrisi? Can the pro beat the purist?
And where does Ben Borman fit into all of this in his trusty Peugeot? We have a lot of questions to answer over the next hour and 14 minutes. It seems so short, coming off some 2.4-hour races, to just have an hour and 14 minutes up on the board.
It certainly does, and we're going to have some very exciting battles all the way through those hour and 13 minutes or so. As the drivers will come through, obviously they will have as much time as is left on the clock, and it will be a cycle through a 12-hour simulation compressed and condensed into that 1.2 hours of racing. So we will go from day to night. By the time the checkered flag falls, it will feel just like the Sebring 12 hours itself. You can see that the mix of 4 different manufacturers, I should say, in the top 5 places. The Sauber Mercedes, the Nissan, the Peugeot, and the Jaguar, all represented up at the sharp end of the field. There is Jason Whitehead in the Storm Rider machine for the Pro category, in the second of the Nissans, who certainly seem to have come out on top for the Pro category. Marwan El Idrisi and Jason Whitehead will battle for the victory in Pro, but watch out for the likes of Brian Hall and Wouter de Bruin in the Porsche. They will definitely be factors in this one as well. They will be trying to charge from the start as the drivers come down the back straight up towards Sunset. This is where the drivers will come through in position.
It looks beautiful with the depth of field effect. Some headlights on, some headlights around Sunset, about to go green.
Oh, this is glorious stuff, ladies and gentlemen. This is what we do this for. The Virtual World Sports Car Championship, historic 1991 championship season. They come out of Sunset. It's going to be Ahmed Abdallah who will dictate the pace. And then we go racing. Green, 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 green. And we are racing and underway as the drivers will charge their way forward down to turn 1. Ahmed Abdallah is going to make the launch forward. He does indeed. And so now it is racing for the first corner. Ahmed Abdallah making a perfect start. No problems at all for him to negotiate the first turn. But Marwan El Idrissi is already starting to get very heated behind him. The Nissan driver feels he's got an opportunity here. And already Ben Borman in tow in the Peugeot. A smooth start. It's single file formation in this category. It needs to be, because the battle is going to be very intense throughout. A big tank snapper from Ahmed Abdallah as he tries to get some traction off the turn, up towards the hairpin. And he will make his first big charge forward towards Cunningham. But Borman is already starting to get pretty heated in behind El Idrissi.
Yeah, clean start, good start from the guys at the front. We have a mix here of pros and purists, which is what we want to see. The difference in machinery, they are interclass, and there's a, yeah, we couldn't even stagger, you know, AMs behind as well, because everyone's in the same machinery. It's not quite as obvious as the hypercars and the GTs that you would split them and have a gap between. So everybody's just intermixed here, and it's going to be a crazy race. El Idrissi was looking a little racy into T1, and he's not letting Abdallah get away, and they are already starting to gap the field, the top three.
So Abdallah in front of El Idrissi and Ben Borman, all going fine and dandy from their point of view. Whitehead, Hall, Krulis Gomez, Smith, Kowalski, De Bruyn, and John Uyan as the top 10 works their way through. Here is the gaggle of drivers in the mix. This is the Sauber Mercedes of Krulis Gomez as he tries to tuck in behind Brian Hall. So the Hall brothers Jaguar going well, as several drivers are getting it slightly crossed up out of Le Mans. And as they go onto the back straight, we're now going to see Krulis Gomez make the first serious overtake in the race as he goes for Hall and he goes for Whitehead in the same ballsy move there from Krulis Gomez as he storms forward to get up into fourth position. That's the commitment you can make into Sunset. And that was very nicely handled. Up into P4.
That was beautifully done. We have Ross Smith and Brian Hall still going at it into T1 side by side. Hall is going to get the better of Smith on this occasion, but Smith is already looking back. Can't quite do it down into T4.
So obviously the challenges are going to come in thick and fast in this category. The drivers are still pushing very hard and fast around this course. This is all about how the drivers are going to be able to deliver as each passing lap continues on, how they look after the tyres, how they look after the pace, and where they make the overtaking moves, as Hall is already starting to get pretty antsy as the drivers are working their way through. Have we got an off there in the background? I think somebody just ran off the course and ended up dropping back as a result. Yes, we've got Ben Borman has fallen down the order. Ben Borman has skated off the road and has had to recover, so we need to have a look back at that again, but I think Ben Borman just dropped it. Oh, car sliding through Cunningham. The back end stepping out, and I think a couple of the Jaguars went a little bit sideways. Jacob Kowalski in the Sauber Mercedes dropping his car, and John Uyan losing his Jaguar in quick succession. So already a couple of incidents to look back over, but the big one is Ben Borman dropping his way down the field to 10th position. Let's have a look. So this is how Borman did it. Making his run through on the far side. Oh, this is a little bit later on in the lap. I do apologise. So Ben Borman is still in the midst of it, but he dropped it further down the course. So not great news from Ben Borman. So this is after he's already dropped the car, I'm afraid. But this is him now battling away for position as he is in behind Vermeulen. So Jacques Vermeulen in the Mazda, causing him a little bit of a headache. But Ben Borman, that is not in the script. He did not need to overshoot. It's almost as if he just completely lost his brakes going into the heavy braking zone. So this is Borman still putting pressure. This is, again, a look back at what happened, but this is just a little bit too late on the mix. There it is. So Borman just losing the car and then ending up having to take the escape road on lap 2. A big mistake to make so early, and that's not good news for Ben Borman as he returns to the circuit. He is currently in 11th position. Then we saw Jacob Kowalski going in sympathy with John Uyan. Two drivers making mistakes. This is how Borman lost it then. He's closing in, and he just loses it under brakes, and he actually tagged Marwan El Idrissi in the Nissan. How did El Idrissi get away with that?
Yeah, he too much rear bias or something. The rear's locked up. I'm going to try and get us an outside view. He rejoins cleanly enough. So here's how it happened. Borman behind El Idrissi. It did look like there was quite a bit of contact as he connected with the side of El Idrissi. So yeah, the rear's locked up. He locked up his rears, hit the wall, hit El Idrissi a little bit. El Idrissi goes wide. Borman, unfortunately, down into the hairpin. It didn't go his way.
But that was well recovered, actually, from Marwan El Idrisi. He could have some damage to his car as a result of that. So he was very lucky to get away. Then we just saw a bit of a tank snapper from John Uyan, who'd slipped to 12th place. And then similarly from Jacob Kowalski, who sadly has fallen all the way now down to 26th position. So big problems there for those two. They just both got a little bit too eager into Cunningham on lap 2. And yeah, big mistakes from them. But certainly from Ben Borman, locking the brakes and spitting the car into the side of Marwan El Idrisi. But Marwan El Idrisi has done an amazing job to hold on to second place despite that contact. Abdallah is basically showcasing what he wasn't able to achieve at Daytona, having started from the back. He worked his way up the way to third position, don't forget. Now he is leading by example and wanting to stay there, as up the inside is the great battle going on further back. This is Stoll, Jones, Mayer, Overton and Chen. We are currently watching Maya battling away in position. Oh, no, sorry. This is the flying Kiwi Porsche of Jerry Chen. Now we're watching Maya as he goes through in the Jaguar. Fabulous cars, these, and some great performances from the drivers in the mix. So we've got this huge gaggle of cars running through. James Andrew in the Jaguar, Jerry Chen in the Porsche, Tom Aiken in the Jaguar in the mix there as well. But here is the Mazda. This is the battle in the middle of the pack. This is George Angelidis in the Lucky Strike Mazda, just following in pursuit of Vermeulen in the Mazda, and Wouter de Bruin in the Porsche, who is up the road as well in 7th place. So this is obviously... Oh, Pedro Crulis Gomez has slipped back. Now, what's happened there for Crulis Gomez? Because he was in 3rd. So clearly an issue for Pedro Crulis Gomez. He was in 3rd position before that. So he has now slipped down into the path of Vermeulen. And this could cause some issues then for Vermeulen as he desperately tries to get past Pedro Crulis Gomez. But what happened to him? Because he was in 3rd place. Maybe he's had a spin somewhere himself. So let's have a look and see. This is Crulis Gomez having slot back in behind Wouter de Bruin initially. So the incident has already passed for Pedro Crulis Gomez here. So hopefully we can look back and see what it was that dropped him out of 3rd position. It seems to be there's a curse on drivers in 3rd place because Borman went off the road from 3rd, and now Pedro Crulis Gomez has done the same thing.
Let's see if we can get a look.
We'll go back and see.
Oh, it's just happened. So let's go back even a little further still.
Yeah, so he's had a little bit of a slip up there, and that's once Wouter de Bruin has already gone through. Let's have a look and see what happened. Oh, Pedro Crulis Gomez, we'll get a look at it. It looks like he's just made a mistake and simply dropped it coming out of the hairpin. And several cars have already gone through by this point. Let's have a look. Has he cooked it? Yep, he's cooked it. Oh, easily done. Spins it right in front of Jason Whitehead. Manages to do a full 360, recovers it. But that is what initially dropped him back, and now he's in P6 in front of Wouter de Bruin, so he has caught and repassed him. But now we know what it was. Pedro Crulis Gomez, as we ride on board with him, now in P6, trying to close up on Ross Smith in the Noon Jaguar. You see how much steering input he's having to do to keep the car on the straight and narrow. He lost a big chunk of time there, actually, Pedro Crulis Gomez, trying to hold on in front of Wouter de Bruin. So he hasn't quite got that car under wraps yet. It's still pretty tricky out there.
We got Borman hounding Angelidis in the Mazda. Borman obviously also one of the spins trying to make his recovery drive. It's so unfortunate as well because he obviously dominated the Daytona race. But with some adversity, he's made a mistake under braking and it has cost him dearly up from 3rd to 10th. You're right. The curse on 3rd as Angelidis goes wide in the sweepers and Borman can have an easy run through onto the back straight.
A very easy trip up there for Angelidis, as Borman has managed to get himself back into position. Here we go. This is Venter versus Jones. Oh, that's about as far over the limit as any driver is willing to go before he gets spat out. That's enough for Kowalski to move up into 20th place past Mark Jones. So the Porsche has to concede there, unfortunately. But he's still being hunted down by John Mayer in the similar Porsche, just a slightly different livery for that car. But back towards the sharp end. This is Wouter de Bruin in the Porsche being chased by this man, Jacques Vermeulen in the Mazda. Ben Borman doing his best. Oh, George Angelidis running out wide in the Lucky Strike Mazda there. And a good catch there from Wouter de Bruin, who initially just drifted off the apex a little bit there in the second corner. but manages to run in connection. They still put on an excellent display. Here's Ben Borman trying again to make his bid, this time on Jacques Vermeulen into the hairpin. Is this going to be a clean move? No, he's got to bail out of it. Oh, he does get the chance in the end. So Vermeulen actually overshoots a little bit in the braking zone, and that's enough for Ben Borman to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, well done from Ben Borman. A little bit, just that little look, right, to give Vermeulen something to think about into the hairpin was enough. Vermeulen maybe not wanting to find it too hard. Obviously, he knows Ben Borman is not there by design, not there on purpose. Back in 8th, which for someone who dominated the race, obviously in Daytona, that's not gone according to plan. So Vermeulen will know that, De Bruyn will know that, Angelides knew that. So let's see, Borman may not have as much resistance getting back through the field as these guys know. He might be in a little bit of a different league.
So with Marouane El Idrissi now leading the race in front of Ahmed Abdallah. Wonder what sorted that one out, because Ahmed Abdallah is now in second place.
Oh,
Did you
you're
miss that
right.
moment? Because El Idrissi is now leading. Now I'm not sure what happened there, but the Nissan is now up front, and Abdallah is back in front. So they are swapping positions, these two, Abdallah and El Idrissi. Has El Idrissi had a moment? Because he's dropped back all of a sudden. He has. El Idrissi's had a problem somewhere by the look of it. So El Idrissi is now suddenly in third position. Yeah, he's had a big, but we need to look this up, because first of all, Abdallah lost the lead to El Idrissi, and now El Idrissi has recovered down in about 6th position. So did he try to defend an overtake from Abdallah, or did he make a mistake? So let's have a look and see what's gone on there. So he's gone in the wall. El Idrissi's actually gone very deep there. That's at turn 2. And El Idrissi has gone very far there into the wall. Manages to bring the car back over the curbs to avoid clipping other drivers. And that's a big mistake from Marouane El Idrissi. This is him in front of Abdallah, and this is how he did it. So he's come through off the turn, kicked up the curbs, bang! Oh, big mistake from Marouane El Idrissi, and that is a race-winning moment washed away.
Absolutely, he's down in 6th now, and that's going to have a lasting impact on the aero. He'll have to take care of that as we hit the lane the first time around, because that car is not going to be feeling good with that big of a shunt.
Well, very unfortunate for Marouane El Idrissi. He had just taken the lead away from Ahmed Abdallah and then drops it in the lead himself. That just shows you how tough it is in this race, in this category, with these cars. Nobody is safe. Abdallah clearly had his behind Marouane El Idrissi, and then as soon as El Idrissi had got into the lead, no sooner had he settled into his rhythm, and then he drops it on the way out of turn 2, that was. So a big mistake there. Now we're watching the Jaguars battling away lower back. This is the pair of Matthew Overton, and the car is, the car behind him, I should say, is James Andrew. So Overton versus Andrew, the teammates in this particular car, or certainly the similar liveried cars, if not the same team. So they battle away. There is a slight difference between the two, actually. So across the line, Andrew is going to get a bit of a run here on Matthew Overton. And he get his under an hour to go at the Virtual World Sports Car Championships. 1.2 hours of Sebring in the 1991 category. Whoops. Andrew just a little skate onto the grass. Manages to catch it before the car spits him out. And there is John Uyan making his bid to go for Joe Miller in the Nissan. Down to the right. Committed. He seems like he's got a line on the inside, but he's not able to throw it up the inside and properly send it. Oh, there's an off in front.
Whoops.
That's one of the Jaguars dropping it. One of the Jaguars spinning right off the road there. Now that is John Uyan, I believe. No, it's Borman again. It's Borman again. Ben Borman has had another big issue. It's the opposite. Ben Borman has had another off. What a disaster for Ben Borman this race is turning into.
He had just made up, though, that ground as well. So let's see if we can take a look back at what happened. Now he's behind Burton and Andrew that we were just looking at earlier. A little bit ahead, too, but obviously he's practicing his pirouettes there. Let's see what caused it. Why? Why is he practicing his pirouettes?
Well, look at how the car is sort of skewed as he comes through. Let's have a look at it. He's come through the hairpin, got on the power. He's run on the grass a little, is he there? Just for a little while.
Oh, I think there was traffic.
Did he He clipped another car. Yes, he clipped a car. I want to see that from an outside view if we can. So here we are on the top of the airbox of Ben Borman's car. And look, he's come off the runoff area and the car has come straight to the side of him. Now that is one of the Kowalskis, I believe. That might even be Now, looking at it, Jacob Kowalski is in the pits. So that would seem to ring true there. Kowalski appears to be out of the running. I think he's picked up damage, but Ben Borman essentially did exactly the same thing he did on lap 2. He overshot the hairpin, used the escape road, and in coming back onto the road, he got caught by Kowalski. He was trying to take the same bit of road at the same time, and the two cars collided with each other. Very embarrassing.
Yeah, let's see. So, yep, it was starting to lock up, overshot it a little bit, takes the long way around the runoff, and Kowalski doesn't know he's there. So Kowalski's taking his... Oh, Kowalski was a little bit loose himself, so there we go. There's the view we were looking for. Kowalski was taking the road himself, not knowing that Borman's way off on the side there. Yeah. Just complete miscommunication and misjudgment on a couple sides there.
Yeah, quite sloppy, unfortunately, from both drivers there. I mean, you could... But they both need to be aware of the fact that there is a car coming back onto the racetrack on that far side, and there's a car still on the racing line. I think that was 6 of one, half a dozen of the other there. Aiken and Chen having a good tussle for 16th position on the racetrack at the moment. So Aiken just running a little bit deep. This is the battle further back between Gilles Lalonde and Mark Jones. So Mark Jones still going well in the Porsche. Oh, and that, I'm afraid, that is the 43 Jag. That is Paul J... Yeah, that is the Jaguar of Aiken, isn't it?
Yeah, he was just having that moment with Chen. I switched away and we missed something. Let's see what happened here with Mr.
Oh, he's got on the grass and hit the throttle, and Chen's gone with him. Well, that's so easy to do. Aiken's just got back on the power a little bit too overzealous because he's drifted onto the curbs. And Chen, poor Jerry Chen, had absolutely nothing he could do about it except just follow him to the scene of the spin. But Chen recovered quite well as a result, actually. And, Ahmed Abdallah. Ahmed Abdallah's had a problem. He's overshot. So Ahmed Abdallah, the race leader, has overcooked it in the hairpin and now down in 6th.
That's a huge moment. I'm going to take us back maybe 45 seconds to see. Oops, that's...
Let's see what happened to Ahmed Abdallah. So that's him recovering as he gets back onto the circuit behind Ross Smith. Marwan El Adrisi has suddenly got a second opportunity here because he's now up to 3rd place behind the new leader, Jason Whitehead. Oh, just a complete overshoot from Ahmed Abdallah and then spins trying to get back on the road again. A big mistake for Ahmed Abdallah, and that has thrown away the lead.
And maybe stalled it here? Is that what we're waiting for? Maybe he stalled the car? And then he's in the Purist. Tries to get back on the road, and the rejoin was fine. So yeah, he overshot, spun, maybe stalled. Engine died, had to get it back on.
Yeah, because you've got to remember that Ahmed Abdallah is in the Purist category. He's now made the move back on Jacques Vermeulen in the Mazda to get himself back into 5th position. But you have to... that the H-pattern gear, so he can install it far easier than the drivers in the Pro category. But all of this now means that Jason Whitehead is leading in the Storm Rider Nissan. Great work from him so far, keeping it nice and consistent. And while other drivers are losing their heads and under wraps, he's having to go through traffic, of course. But it's still Jason Whitehead who is out in front, and he's doing a great job. 3 seconds ahead of Brian Hall, who is being caught now by Marwan El Adrisi in the Nissan. So all of a sudden, this race is wide open.
Yeah, and El Adrisi is all over the back of Hall with Abdallah now trying to chase down Smith. So Ross Smith, with Borman and Abdallah having issues, Ross Smith is the one who leads our Purist category. And there we go, El Adrisi down the inside of Hall, nicely done.
Yeah, that was pretty textbook. Gets the move done into Cunningham, and that is up into 2nd position. No problem at all there. The overtake. BC is now just 2.8 seconds back from Jason Whitehead. A good chance as Curtis Gomez appears to be out of the race. So what has happened to Pedro Cruz Gomez? And there's a spin. That's exactly what happened. And he got hit by another car on the way through. Gomez, I'm afraid he's taken some accident damage from another of his opponents there, and that is game over for the Sauber Mercedes driver. What a shame.
Yeah, so I couldn't quite catch what happened. He spun maybe in the hairpin. Don't know if it was his fault or another driver's, but either way, he ended up around as well. And cars coming through. And Kowalski is out, by the way. We had that incident earlier with Borman rejoining and stuff like that. Kowalski ended up retiring the car, so that's unfortunate for Kowalski, who was in the top 6 there.
We seem to have lost Mountjoy and Brandon Gant as well, who didn't actually take part in qualifying either. So Gant in trouble, Mountjoy in trouble, Kowalski, and now Pedro Cruz Gomez as well. So it's game over for all 4 of those drivers. Oh, Sever and Nielsen Vestergaard. Goodness me. That is not a lot of paint left to swap between those two as they went out of sunset. And Guy Sever is able to be the one who runs in front as the 3 Jaguars run together.
And I apologize for the stuttering. I don't know why R Factor's having a bit of trouble. Potentially the track detail a little too high, or the car detail a little too high. But yeah, we are getting obviously some stuttering. But we can still tell what's going on, and that's really the most important, isn't it?
Absolutely. We've got this great battle developing now between Lalonde and Angelidis. So this is Angelidis trying to recover after his earlier moment. And so there goes Angelidis to pass the car. Is that... I think that's... Actually, John Meyer in the Porsche just trying to battle away with Angelidis. There is Angelidis all over the back of him now in the Lucky Strike Mazda. Coming back up towards turn 3 and taking it out through the curb as you get back in position. Side by side, this is Borman and Uyan. So Borman manages to lean on through on the run to Jean de Bien as they go through Jean de Bien now. But that is a very big commitment from Borman as he went through the left-hand flick to hold it on the inside line there in front of John Uyan in the CMS Pro Jaguar. That was brave, and that was total commitment from Ben Borman. I think he's realised that now that Abdallah's dropped it, the chance still in this race. He just set the fastest lap of the race, a 1:48.3, and he is within a second of the race leader, Jason Whitehead. So Marouane El Idrissi is about to get a second chance to lead this race. He's getting close to the back of Jason Whitehead in the Nissan.
Yeah, there's the gap, just 9/10 of a second. And El Idrissi have some traffic, yep.
So this is the opportunity that Marouane El Idrissi's been looking for, just trying to tuck his way through the cars around him. But so far, so good as he laps one of the Mazdas. But it is Jason right in front of Marouane El Idrissi. Here is Ben Borman. He's got back up to Walter de Bruyne once again. The inside, full commitment. Got to be so careful at this part of the course as they go through the left flick again. Borman is going to hold it round the outside up towards the head. And that P7.
If there was a time to get the hairpin right, that was the moment. He's had a little bit of trouble with the hairpin, obviously. Not his favorite corner of this track, but that was well done.
Yeah, he needed to execute it quite well there. Up through the hairpin turn and on towards Fangio. It can be very easy to drop it as the cars make their way out of Jean de Bien and up towards Le Mans. This is El Idrissi, and he's going to get his chance along the Allman Straight. Can he make this work at a sunset? Look at great Whitehead is breaking the toe, desperately trying to keep El Idrissi off him as they come up towards sunset. But surely this is futile. Well, Whitehead doesn't think so. He is coming right across Marouane El Idrissi to hold him at bay. And Marouane El Idrissi is now going to have to go the long way round Sunset Bend to try and get the switchback maneuver back. Now that Jason Whitehead is they're both pitting. Right, that's important. They both decided to pit together. So Whitehead has won the battle, but can he win the war?
Exactly. How are they going to do on their lanes? Both good stops, good stops. So, interestingly, though, El Idrissi went up on Jax, and Whitehead didn't. So if we look back here, if only one is taking tires, which it does look like, that's a 20-second buffer that Whitehead will have. So we'll have to come back here in a little bit. But Whitehead might not be taking tires, and that will be a 20-second advantage if so.
So that could be very interesting come the end of the race as we watch John Uyan battling away with Wouter de Bruin. So the pit stops for the two leaders then, Whitehead and Iladrisi, has now promoted Brian Hall in the Hall Brothers Jaguar to the lead of the race in front of Ross Smith in the Noon Racing Peugeot and Jacques Vermeulen. He's running. What's happened to Ahmed Abdallah? Is he coming to the pits as well? Is Abdallah in the pit lane as well? Yes, he is. I wondered if he'd had another off, but no, he is in pit road too, as is Chen, and as is Joe Miller, I do believe. Joe Miller has continued on. It's actually Mazur who's in, as well as Nielsen Vestergaard. It's Venter who came into the pits as well, along with Lalonde and Aiken. So quite a few of the big names in the middle of the pack have decided to use this opportunity to pit, as you can see.
And Whitehead's away. Iladrisi is still stuck. So yes, 20 seconds for tires.
Yeah, Whitehead goes out first. And obviously he's going to get out a fair way in front of both of the drivers he's battling with, Iladrisi and Abdallah. In fact, Abdallah has already come back out onto the circuit, I do believe.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Managed to jump Iladrisi as a result of that. Yes, he has. Abdallah comes out of the pits in 12th position. He's not taking tyres either. Iladrisi is. So he's clearly feeling, do you know what? If we take tyres, we can go hell for leather. We can push like stink. The others will have to look after their tyres.
And you know what? Iladrisi might have some aero damage that either he did or didn't intend to repair. Was he? Because he was involved in that slide into the, I forget who it was with, but there was a slide into the hairpin and it bonked him on the side.
It was with Borman, wasn't it? Borman, who just skewed straight into him.
Right, so maybe some aero damage repair needed for Iladrisi that increased the time even more. So Whitehead then, after we all shuffle through, Whitehead will be in a very, very strong position.
And Whitehead might actually be leading this by quite some margin by the time this is all shuffled out. We're looking at the battle for 4th place at the moment. This is Wouter de Bruin in front of John Uyan, Porsche versus Jaguar. Which of the drivers up front are going to be making pit stops sooner rather than later, and when will they do so? Vermeulen is in the pits, I can tell you. So Vermeulen is in pit road. And he has come into the pits from 9th position. Several drivers are now making their way back out onto the road after having had their pit stops. But it is Brian Hall who leads the race in front of Ross Smith, Ben Borman, Wouter de Bruin, and John Uyan. I wonder if we're just watching a couple of the cars a little further back in the pack making their pit stops now, that some of the drivers being lapped. Stoll is in, Overton is in, and so is Barry DiMarzo. So Barry DiMarzo in the Lucky Strike Mazda has had to make his pit stop. Jacques Vermeulen has made his stop too.
So White does well and truly lead those who have stopped so far. Smith down to Andrew. These guys have yet to stop for our top 6 overall.
And as a result of all of this, Ben Borman is now actually showing up as leading the race. Although Borman, is he in the pits as well now? Because we've got Ben Borman running in P2. No, Borman is in the pits. So Borman is out on track still. So we've got John Uyan should be running up in 2nd position now as he works his way through past the drivers who have pitted. And Uyan is in the pits as well, actually. So Smith is in, so is De Bruin, Uyan, and Hall. So Whitehead should move up into 3rd place behind James Andrew in the Jaguar, who is currently showing up as running in 2nd position now, having worked his way up. So for Ben Borman, he is back in the lead of the race, certainly back at the sharp end. I don't think he's actually led a lap of the race thus far, but this will keep him in a good frame of mind to be leading the race. We'll have to see what this does to Ben Borman's race battle. You are watching the 1991 World Sports Car Series from CMSRacing.com, powered by Storm Gang Simulation. Jake Sanson and Troy Uyan guiding you through the action of the Sebring 1.2 hours, the 2nd race in the 1991 VWSC Historic Championship Battle. And this is currently Brian Hall versus Jason Whitehead. Whitehead was leading when he came into the pits. He's going to make his bid for Brian Hall. I don't think Hall's going to push him too hard. But Whitehead gets the car stopped in the hairpin, almost loses the traction again off the turn, but he manages to get the car stopped. That's a nice small for Jason Whitehead, who finds himself in 3rd in the Storm Rider Nissan.
Yeah, and that might be our overall when it all shuffles out after Borman and James Andrew take their stop in the lane as well. A lot happened during that pit rotation, and it almost caught us completely by surprise as De Bruyn gets a little squirrely down into the braking. We've got a Abdallah went wide in the hairpin behind. It's all a bit kicking off. It's a bit chaotic right now. I'm not even sure where to look.
Well, this is the thing, every single driver in this field seems to have a claim to the victory. It's about who is going to be able to keep on top of these cars as Angelidis spins. Angelidis loses it in front of Smith as he goes wheel to wheel with his... And I'm afraid George Angelidis ended off losing the car completely on the way through Cunningham.
Yeah, now we're back to live. I think there's the replay machine is falsifying records back here. Now we're back to live. Angelidis is being hounded by Ross Smith for position, and this is for third in the Purist category.
It is indeed. So Angelidis is obviously working hard to get himself back into a podium position. He is there at the moment in third in front of Ross Smith. Always very tricky, in particular this course, which, as we said, it's very different. Right, especially when you've got traffic to deal with, as we watch De Bruyn run in front of El Idrissi. Oh, and El Idrissi sideswiped! El Idrissi gets sideswiped by the traffic, and that really has thrown his chances of the victory up in tatters. Marwan. That's big. So there is El Idrissi trying to recover, but that is a nightmare for Marwan El Idrissi. Oh, that's Abdallah running off the road as John Uyan has overtaken him. What's happened to Ahmed Abdallah there? He just seems to have completely backed out of the corner as we now watch Smith still hustling Angelidis. So George Angelidis running solid in the top 10 here in front of Ross Smith and John Uyan. But there are cars struggling all over the place. As Ahmed Abdallah has now recovered in 11th position, so he is starting to get back up to speed again. There's all sorts of chaos and drama here at Sebring. One of the toughest races in sports cars in esports that I've seen for a fair while here, as plenty crop of drivers are having a chance to lead. It's currently James Andrew who leads the race, or at least he did, and now he has come into the pit. So Jason Whitehead is going to pick up the lead of the race again, but he's only about a second in front of Brian Hall. So he's not got this race won by any stretch of the imagination yet. 39 minutes to go as Smith has another look at Angelidis in the hope that he can skate through on the inside, and he does on the exit. So that's well read by Smith as Angelidis just drifts out of the apex of the corner at Sunset, and they're going to go side by side again. Angelidis to the inside at turn one, throw back, and Smith has to rumble onto the grass, still manages to commit in front of Angelidis. Angelidis
Angelidis at the inside, they connect!
Angelidis spins it in turn three. Oh, such a good battle is completely ruined.
Oh my word, Angelidis did not want to let it go easy, corner after corner, but in the end, couldn't hang on to the car itself. The position will go along with it.
Oh, poor George Angelidis, he was fully committed. Hang on a minute, is that Ahmed Abdallah? Ahmed Abdallah's got no wing. So Abdallah coming back into the pits with big damage, and I'm afraid that is game over for the Sauber Mercedes driver. Surely he's never going to win the race from that.
No, something absolutely chaotic, and the replay machine is broken, so we're going to have to go along with, unfortunately, what we can see, and we see Abdallah without a rear wing. And
wow.
However, Whitehead is definitely coming under pressure now from Brian Hall.
Yeah, this is the lead battle. Sorry we can't bring you any further replays, but I would not be game over for him completely. Meanwhile, Brian Hall is putting pressure on Jason Whitehead. Nissan versus Jaguar in this crazy race where everybody who's ended up in the lead has ended up becoming a cropper as well. So nobody wants to win this one by the look of it. This is like Monaco 82 or is Whitehead under enough pressure that he can put the Hall brothers Jaguar into the lead of the race. I tell you what, whoever's going to win this race, Troy, is going to have the patience of a saint, because every driver that gets into the lead of this one has ended up in...
Yeah, and how do we go from here? We still might have another splash and dash at the end. I'm assuming we were on accelerated time. We must be on accelerated fuel. The question is, are we on accelerated tire wear as well? And with the fact that and Abdallah got a penalty as well, but I think that's just insult to injury at this point. With the way that the cars were already taking tires at the beginning there as well, going up on the jacks and everything like that, maybe we are on accelerated tire wear as well. It would make sense. So there's so much to play for, and we saw how everything just went from relative. It was almost calming down, and then the pit stop rotation happened, and it was just chaos for like 15 minutes straight. We're gonna have another round of that as the race is rounding out with a splash and dash at the end as Hall gets almost too wide in his attempt to go around the outside of Whitehead.
It's a race now that they've got their main pit stops out of the way. It's Brian Hall who wants to command this race, and it's a little bit of a run wide from Whitehead. Whitehead trying to squeeze Hall as they come up towards turn 3, and Whitehead holds the lead for the moment, but Brian Hall is right there trying to nip one and tuck one as they come through the apexes. It's going to be very Whitehead and Hall, and as they come up to the hairpin, surely this is going to be Brian Hall's best chance of the race so far to take the lead of Sebring 1.2. Here he comes up towards the braking zone. Is Whitehead going to give him any space? No, he does not. So Whitehead holds it, but Brian Hall is absolutely committed and determined. He wants to take the lead.
The hairpin was a good opportunity, and it was just barely not close enough to have a move. Whitehead was super late on the brakes, and the heavier Nissan actually tends to struggle on the brakes, so Whitehead is definitely handling the car through the tricky sections to hold on to this lead.
So where is the move going to come from Brian Hall? Can he use the traffic of the cars in front of him to make the move? They're about to come up to Peter Mayer to put a lap on him. So this could be very interesting as Brian Hall gets a little squirrely out of Champion, and it's down the Ullman straight once again. Whitehead initially tries to use the traffic to get the slipstream, but instead changes tack as the Mazda gets out of the way of Peter Mayer. They manage to get through and put a lap on him. So this is for the lead of the 1.2 hours of Sebring, and all goes up Whitehead and go for the victory here. Onto the main straight again and up towards turn 1. So Brian Hall in the Hall brothers Jaguar still putting immense amounts of pressure. And look who's behind them in the background. It's not just these two. In third position, welcome.
Ben Borman joins the party. Ben Borman has joined the chat.
And it's not a million miles out of the possibility that 13 seconds back, Marouane El Idrissi is still in contention for this, depending on how well they look after tyres. And let's not forget that El Idrissi has obviously taken fresh tyres. He was in the pits for longer than anybody, and he's now 13 seconds back from these two. Brian Hall making a bid to try and come through as they come up towards Cunningham. Into the right-hander they will go. Still not close enough yet to make the committed move onto Jason Whitehead. Whitehead cross. Borman right into the game. Borman is right there.
Yeah, Borman has definitely benefited from these guys battling. Oh, Borman goes...
Oh, he's gone off! Borman shot! Borman's lost completely the car and gone straight into the barriers. Borman is out of it, surely. With that big... There's no... That was Ben Borman's best chance. As now Whitehead loses traction through Le Mans. They're going to go side by side down the Ullman straight, surely. As now drop back. Down behind, I think he's out of it. Ben Bowman is out of the race. A big crash for him. Meanwhile, Whitehead is trying to squeeze and lean on Brian Hall as Hall comes out through Sunset Bend. They come down the main straight once again, and they're going to run side by side, but he's not going to have the draft on Jason Whitehead. Still, Jason Whitehead holds on to this lead in front of Brian Hall. They skate through 3 and 4. Is big. This is so tense between these two now. You just wait to make his ultimate move now on Jason Whitehead. And Whitehead is just keeping him honest as Brian Hall looks for every single opportunity, every dropped apex, every dropped gear shift. But Whitehead hangs on in front of Brian Hall with Marwan El Adrisi only no. Let's not forget the fact that Marwan El Adrisi is not far away from these two. If anything happens to these pair, then it is the Nissan that's going to pick up the pieces, and Whitehead drifts a little wide, so Hall nearly has him.
And there's this speed deficit on the straight. Hall cannot take advantage of the draft. He couldn't even take advantage of Whitehead going wide or getting checked up by traffic. So Whitehead is hanging on by a thread here because of his straight line advantage. Hall definitely has the advantage in the infield. So Whitehead can never bring a gap, but Hall can't take advantage of how tiny the gap is once they do get on to an overtaking opportunity in the straight. And here we go, switch back to the wall. But Whitehead's going to have the faster car in the straight and the inside line, so he'll keep defending. It's absolutely on a knife's edge for Whitehead to keep Hall behind him. I have a feeling if Hall does get through, he will pull away. There's side-by-side Hall around the outside to the hairpin. Can't quite do it.
Half an hour to go in the 1.2 hours of Sebring, and this is going to be lightning stuff all the way through because there are several drivers who could win this now. Adrisi is only a dozen seconds back from our race. Jason Hall's in the mix as well. So many drivers with a chance to make this work out in their favor. But Brian Hall is hustling Jason Whitehead. A big slide from Whitehead, and this could be enough as Brian Hall is now right underneath him as they charge up towards Cunningham once again. This is going to be tight. Is there going to be a run through to the inside at Cunningham? No, Whitehead has got the car. This is on board with the rear spoiler of Brian Hall's Jaguar. Storming to try and find a way through on the inside line as they tuck out on the speed now. Back up towards the left flick they will come. Very tight work with these two, and then up towards Jean de Bien, in through the right-hander, holding the line up towards Le Mans curve. So much speed that you carry through that particular turn, and then onto the Ullman straight, but it's the same problem. Hall just doesn't have the straight line speed even in the draft to counteract Jason Whitehead.
Yeah, and Hall actually seemed to have a better run, but I'm remembering now as well, the turbo delay of the Nissan is definitely playing a hand in terms of getting that car out of those mid-speed corners, because there's a very high turbo lag on the Nissan. So the mid-speed corners like this, he's catching, and then the Nissan plucks away when the turbo kicks in.
So still a battle. Brian Hall is desperate for the mistake from Jason Whitehead. This is exactly what we were hoping for from a great race between these two. Whitehead in front of Brian Hall. Marwan El Adrisi only charging, catching. And the Nissan is trying to rein in the two leaders. Wouter de Bruin in fourth position. A bit of an overshoot there from Brian Hall. He almost missed his braking point completely. Just managed to stop the car at the apex. Smith is in Mullen, Angelidis, James Andrew, the former race leader, and Paul J. Venter. But there are some big battles still to come in this one. Both Jason Whitehead and Brian Hall would probably not have been expecting to battle for the victory in this one, but now they've got a chance of it. Neither driver is backing down.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. We have a second round of pit stops potentially starting with Mayer and Aiken, both beginning their pit rotation. Are they maybe going a little bit earlier with a shorter mid-stint to try to get the upper hand on the rest of that midfield battle, perhaps?
Well, one driver Marwan El-Adrisi is almost certainly going to consolidate the fact that he's taken the fresh tyres and try and gain backtrack position. So all this battling between Whitehead and Hall could come to nothing as we watch Overton in the Dark Thunder Jaguar making his bid to overtake and then battle away with Jerry Chen, although Chen is still the man in front of Overton at present. Gilles Lalonde is the man behind them in the race at the moment in 13th position. And Overton, what a catch, what a catch. Overton almost chucked the Jaguar into the barriers there. As into the pits comes Brian Hall. So it's pit stop time for him. Now, did he come in at the same time as Whitehead? No, he did not. So Brian Hall is trying to get the undercut. Jason Whitehead in the Nissan.
Yeah, Whitehead's still out. El-Adrisi is still out. Just 6 seconds now. Behind El-Adrisi is actually the one putting the most pace of our top three, which is going to make things very, very interesting. Now, we should point out, actually, that unless I'm mistaken here, nope, never mind, ignore me. I was going to say Whitehead is actually in the Purist, but no, this is legitimately between the three of them, Hall, Whitehead, and El-Adrisi. They are for the overall lead and the pro lead, so they are for position as well and truly as you can make it. Ross Smith is our Purist leader, back in 4th overall.
So still, Jason Whitehead leads this race, although into the pits obviously has come Brian Hall, and that will drop him back. Angelidis takes the opportunity to come into the pits as well. So with 25 minutes to go, it's either going to be Whitehead or El-Adrisi, or potentially someone completely random from the field that is going to get the run for the victory at this rate, because that's the kind of race this Sebring 1.2 hours has been in the Virtual World Sports Car Championship, historic 1991 championship, brought to you by CMS Racing, Champion Motorsports, and Storm Gang Simulations. It really or Sanson and Troy Uyan with you. We have had some fantastic racing thus far. As into the pits, we already see Angelidis. Now, what's Jason Whitehead going to do? That's going to be key. Fastest lap of the race has come in from Marwan El-Adrisi at 1:48.3. He's currently lapping in the 1:49 flats. There is one. This is going to be. El-Adrisi is on the charge.
And Whitehead did not take the opportunity to pit, neither did El-Adrisi, so Brian Hall is the only one who's made his second stop. He's down in 7th overall. How does this play out? I want to kind of monitor his lap times as we go through. Obviously, about a minute in the lane, so that would point to me that he did take tires for this final shootout.
So this is obviously going to be a very tough battle as they continue on their way. Is to predict how this is going to go. There is Hall in front of. This is Smith and Uyan.
Oh, Smith very defensive.
Ross Smith having to defend valiantly here from John Uyan. Uyan really senses he's got a chance as we come into the night. For Uyan on Ross Smith. Smith is giving him no room for negotiation whatsoever. Uyan is going to try and commit to the inside. Frustrations for John Uyan. I can't quite make it through.
Yeah, it doesn't quite have the run down into the braking zones as of yet. However, and it has dropped back quite a bit as well, so a bit of an overshoot on that last hairpin. Smith is going to have a bit of a gap. However, Smith is stuck behind a Lucky Strike Mazda at the same time.
Still incredibly close with 23 minutes left of the race here at Sebring. Can't quite get the undercut maneuver. And that is one of the Lucky Strike Mazdas in front of them. I think that's DiMarzio, is it? Who's just in front of them, trying to cause as little headache to the leading pair as possible. Getting right out of the way.
So then here we go. Clear run with the draft. What does the speed differential in the straight give? It does not give a massive advantage to Uyan as I would have expected.
Whitehead is in pit road. Whitehead is in pit road.
All right.
The race leader, Jason Whitehead, has come into the pits now. Now, this will be fascinating to see where he gets out in relation to Brian Hall.
Exactly. So Whitehead and Hall. Hall is just rounding sunset now. Whitehead, 46 seconds in the lane and counting. Where does the timer stop? It keeps going. I believe Whitehead's taking tires. Hall might not have taken tires. Whitehead is still stationary as Hall comes over the line.
So Whitehead's clearly hoping that he's going to have better compared on the upper hand in terms of the pit stop rotation. So Brian Hall is now ahead of Jason Whitehead, but Whitehead stopping for longer to take on tires might be significant come the end of this race because it's looking after tires. That's where this race is going to be won and lost. So for the moment, Marouane El Idrissi is your race leader, 35 seconds or so in front of Wouter de Bruin. But how long can that last? Because he took tires initially, but is he going to need another quick pit stop to correct the balance?
Smith still holding off Uyan for third overall. El Idrissi has now hit the lane as well, so this is interesting. Does El Idrissi take tires or not? Because we assumed earlier when he had that longer stop, he did. He's the one that went up on the jacks, if I'm not mistaken, so he definitely took tires earlier. Does he need tires again? If no, then he might find himself slotted into second overall when this all pans out.
I kind of think that if you're Marouane El Idrissi, you may as well pit and take tyres because you're going to have a bit of a performance option in his back pocket. I mean, Jason Whitehead is only about 55 seconds behind, anywhere between 55 to a minute. And we know that Whitehead is going to be stretching the limits, but he's also going to have older tyres than Marouane El Idrissi. So if you're El Idrissi, you kind of think, well, we may as well go for this because Brian Hall's running the gauntlet on tyres. Whitehead has pitted for ones, but whatever happens, if El Idrissi does make the pit stop, he will have fresher tyres to play with. So you kind of feel that he should really take that gamble as Hall makes his pit on the inside there to get one of the Porsches out of the way. Marouane El Idrissi is in the pits. There we go. Marouane El Idrissi is in pit road. Now, what sort of a pit stop has he been able to do?
Oh, he's come out just ahead of Hall. He's just ahead of Hall, so he did. I don't think he took tires. I don't think he took tires. He came out just ahead of Hall. And this is it. This is on for the overall lead. They're third right now, fourth right now. However, the guys ahead have not taken their second stop yet. So here we go.
And this is all about track position for Marouane El Idrissi. He wanted to beat Brian Hall out of the pits. In a similar boat to him, he's going to have old tyres as well. So this is all about, this race is now going to be won and lost by Jason Whitehead. If Whitehead can gain the 7 seconds on fresher tyres, then he's got a really good chance of making this race victory his own. But this is about the composure. Hall, who's going to hold this together? So at the moment, Wouter de Bruin is your race leader.
Oh, Hall off in the
background.
Hall dropped it in the background. That's a huge gap, 1.4 seconds now.
Lost it. Big. Now, where did he go? He is still in front of Whitehead, but that's at least 4 seconds, just about nearly lost. Oops, as off goes the Mercedes in front of, well, it was a big tank slapper, wasn't it? Now, there was Whitehead. So Whitehead is still pushing, trying to make the gains. Brian Hall has lost, I would say, about 3 seconds, 4 seconds in that little mistake. But at least it wasn't the full Ben Borman. That would have been absolutely catastrophic.
Oh, no, Ben Borman's become a verb. Oh,
no. Sorry. Now, into the pits. That is the Porsche, I do believe, of Vermeulen. So Vermeulen has come into the pits then. Oh, sorry, that's the Mazda, I should say, of Vermeulen. But I think De Bruin has come in as well in the Porsche. Yes, he has. So both of them making their way into the pits. That means that Smith is now the temporary race leader. When he makes his final pit stop, it will be Marouane El Idrissi that takes the lead of the race, with Brian Horse second and Jason Whitehead third. But all three drivers are going to be running the pressure cooker in terms of looking after their tyres.
Yeah, absolutely. We have Whitehead, the only one on the fresh rubber that we know of. Now, obviously, it is, I should point out, always a little bit tricky to tell who did and didn't do what. Is it, did they take tires but have a lower fuel round, or, you know, what have you? But we assume, as we stand right now, El Idrissi and Hall split by 4 seconds. Hall does look to be the quicker at the moment, and they're both on old tires. Whitehead might be... Oh, Whitehead's had a spin. Mercedes spins in front of El Idrissi. However, Whitehead has dropped way back. Whitehead's dropped way back.
Yeah, Whitehead's lost a lot of time. Yeah, he's lost about a dozen seconds, I would say there, Jason Whitehead. Wouter de Bruin almost managed to get a little bit of a run on there. So this is talking about a person who's led this race has had problems. Nobody has had it easy going from the start. Whoever's going to win this is going to be the one that keeps as consistent as possible throughout, who has managed the car, managed the tyres, and got a little bit of lady luck on their side. DNA versus Mayer, as they battle away. Always good to try and keep an eye on the drivers in the midfield as well as at the front end of the field. So Moyne and Meyer still giving us plenty of entertainment and drama, the two of them. The Acura Mistral and the Mazda 787B. El Idrissi is just 5 seconds in the lead now as Ross Smith has made his pit stop. So in position.
So as Moyne and Meyer battle for the midfield, Smith has pitted from the lead. Whitehead gets through properly into third place, as he was, but that interval at the top there, that is not to the lead, that is to next. That is 20 seconds he now has to make up on Brian Hall. Hall, by the way, also dropping back from El Idrissi, so El Idrissi has picked up the pace. El Idrissi, of our top three, does look to be the one who has the most amount of paces. Overton pits from the top as well. Smith has properly got the gap and the lead of your Purist category, with James Andrew about 12 seconds behind in Purist.
So 15 minutes remain. Into the pits has come Matthew Overton in the Dark Thunder Jaguar. This is about Marouane El Idrissi. So careful through the race. When things have gone wrong, he hasn't lost his plot. He's got himself back together, regrouped, and got himself into a rhythm again. And he made the tyre call early so that he was out of position. He could just run the race without pushing the tyres too hard. And now he has got himself into a position here in the half left block.
Yeah, with just 14 minutes to go, El Idrissi, if he can keep his nose clean, looks to be in a very, very strong position to finally have some clarity with just 15 minutes to go. Everyone's made their final stops. The craziness of pit rotations is behind us. There's clarity at the front of the field. El Idrissi 6 seconds ahead of Hall, 19 seconds back to Whitehead, unfortunately, because that was looking strong, and he is, of the three right now, he is lapping the fastest. So what would have been if Whitehead didn't have that moment as El Idrissi negotiates with Jaguar traffic into the hairpin?
You've got to ask as well, what would have been if Borman hadn't thrown it off the road or Abdallah had thrown it off the road? Because both of them would have been in the hunt for the victory here, especially considering how many drivers have dropped the ball, because we know that Brian Hall's had an off, we've had Whitehead had an off, we've had El Idrissi have problems as well. There's not a single driver in this race that hasn't had problems, that hasn't been off the road at some stage, and these are incredibly competitive races. We've got Marouane El Idrissi leading the race. Persia, and that'll be a great victory for him if he can get this one done. And then leading in the AM category is Jacques Vermeulen, who's running in a very solid 8th place. Very good work from Vermeulen. But I don't think Ross Smith thought coming into this race that he was going to be leading in the Purist category by this point with a dozen minutes left of the race. I think he would have almost certainly had looked to Borman and Abdallah or possibly even Pedro Cruz Gomez with the most likely candidates to take the win in the Purist. But this has been amazing for Ross Smith, just keeping it out of trouble, not getting into hot water, just keeping himself up in the sharp end. And into the pits has come Steve Carman. So Steve Carman in third position in the Purist category. He should rejoin just behind Manuel Stoll, I would think. So Manuel Stoll is going to move up into fourth position in the category behind George Angelidis. So Carman is going to have a trip looking at the length of the pit stop.
Oh,
a spin! A spin there. Now, who was that? Was that Carman? It was Steve Carman, I'm afraid. No, my apologies. That was Carman coming into the pits. So who was it that dropped it there, Troy? I missed who it was.
Yeah, it was another Lucky Strike Mazda. I thought as well it was Carman, but Carman was actually on the other side of the track, getting into the lane. I mean, I don't maybe. Where has
Was
George
that
Angelidis
Angelidis?
go? Yeah, where's Angelidis gone? He's still third in Purist.
So I wonder if that spin was actually Barry DiMarzo. It might actually.
Ah.
So Barry DiMarzo's just fallen out of the top 20. Mark Jones has got him. So I think that might have been DiMarzo who lost it in the Sunset Bend. Of our screen. But we've now got Gilles Lalonde and Jerry Chen battling away for 7th in the pro category. And obviously these two are actually dueling away for 12th place overall. So Gilles Lalonde away with the flying Kiwi Porsche of Jerry Chen. Yellow in sector 2, so we've had a little bit of a trip off the road there. But with 10 minutes to go, there are still some big battles in this race, and it's still not clear-cut yet for Marouane El Idrissi, who has a 9-second advantage over Brian Hall. And there's still plenty to go.
Yeah, so we've started to finally have some gaps stretch out at the front of the field. It's been a very entertaining from about minute 45 up to about minute 10 on terms of time remaining. It's been extremely hectic. As soon as that first pit stop rotation kicked off, it was mayhem from that point forward. And I think finally, with 9 minutes and 50 seconds to go, we have some, sense of calm right now on the track.
And just as you say that, Jason Whitehead sets the fastest lap of the race. So 1:49.95. He was almost a second quicker than Marouane El Idrissi on that lap. And a full 3 on the last lap than Brian Hall in second place. So Jason Whitehead clearly feels that this victory is still up for grabs. As into the pits has come Stephen Miller. So Stephen Miller brings his trusty Speed Details Jaguar into the pit in 9th position in the AM category. So he heads back out onto the circuit in front of Maximilian Petravki, who is still going strong in 26th. There are 28 cars still running. We've lost Ben Borman, Joe Miller, Ahmed Abdallah, Sever, Pedro Cruz Gomez, Jacob Kowalski, Tom Mountjoy, and Dan Gant. They have all retired from the races. So the battles are still very.
Oh, everybody's having a little bit of exciting times on the exits onto the back straight. I think we may have lost Mr. Jake Sanson in the commentary booth.
I'm back. I think I'm back. It's one of those. Unfortunately, the weather in my commentary box booth is going particularly bad here, so I'm trying to hang on to the end of the race in the hope that I'm still going to have some vocal cords by the end of it. I do apologize for the connection issues, but the weather has got catastrophic in my commentary booth, so we're just trying to hang on to the end of the race. But this is a great little tussle, as that is Jerry Chen getting out of the way of Jerry Whitehead. So Whitehead is pushing hard here. He's in the 150s, still about 3 seconds a lap quicker than Brian Hall. So Hall's second position here, Troy, is very much under pressure as Jason Whitehead is chipping away at that advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. It is under pressure, and Whitehead is the one with the fresh rubber. Hull is the one who didn't have the straight line pace to get by Whitehead on track. So what happens if Whitehead can get onto the back of Hall? Does this give an opportunity for Whitehead to have a better run on the straight, obviously, than Hall did, trying to do it the other way around? So second might still be up for grabs here with just 9.8 seconds splitting them, 9.6 seconds split. I mean, it's tenths every sector for Jason Whitehead. And yeah, just have to imagine if there wasn't that spin or whatever happened to create that 20-second gap in the first place, he might be right on the back of him now. So definitely putting in the work, putting in the pace for Whitehead. The turbo in the Nissan doing him well as he chases down the Jaguar of Brian Hall. Has to contend with some traffic. And that's another note as well. When there was traffic and Hall and Whitehead were fighting each other, Whitehead was in front and he was the one contesting the traffic in front of him. Still had the, even when being checked up on the last turn, or the last turn before the run down to Sunset rather, he still had the pace with that turbo to kick into gear and keep Hall behind him. So as we drop now to 9.2, 9.1, 8.9, every single straightaway, 8.5, every single straightaway, every single corner almost, Whitehead is chipping into the lead of Brian Hall.
What a fantastic showdown this is turning out to be. He's taking 0.6 of a second out of Brian Hall's advantage in every sector, never mind in every lap.
Wow.
So Brian Hall's second position is very much under scrutiny here from Jason Whitehead, who is just chipping away. He was 0.6 of a second quicker in every single sector, Jason Whitehead, getting a 1 minute 50.6 compared to Brian Hall on a 1:53.3. So Brian Hall is just trying to keep the car on a straight and narrow. Here is Jacques Vermeulen, who is going beautifully in front of his logistical nightmare teammate Paul J. Venter. Mazda's running first and second in the AM category, and this is exactly what Jacques Vermeulen and Paul J. Venter were hoping for. So yeah, they continue in fine form.
Absolutely. These guys have absolutely nailed it in terms of the setup and the consistency throughout the course of this race. Monet is 53 seconds behind the logistical nightmare. Not a nightmare on this one. It was a nightmare for all their competitors on this go-around. Oh, Whitehead, 6.8. 6 point, as Vermeulen actually is looking at the back of John Uyan. That would not be for position, of course. However, on the Whitehead front, 6.8, 6.6, of course, down the back straight. Every single time they hit this straightaway into Sunset and afterwards, it's tenths and tenths of a second just on the straightaways alone. And as Sanson has pointed out, it's 0.6 per sector through some of these moments. So Whitehead is absolutely putting the pace on Brian Hall, and Brian Hall may be seeing that delta time on his telemetry and his HUD starting to whittle down as the time in the session itself for the race whittles down as well. So which one hits zero first?
The gap has come down to less than 5 in 1.8 seconds difference between Whitehead and Hall in terms of lap times. You were talking about Vermeulen following in behind John Uyan. That is for position. That's for P6 overall. So Vermeulen is actually 7th overall as the leader of the AM category. So if John Uyan makes a mistake, then Vermeulen is actually going to end up with 6th overall here. Great performance from Ross Smith. Of all of the drivers in the Purist category, I think he would have considered himself the last driver to be bidding for the victory when the first lap was over, because obviously you had some big pressure from Borman, from Abdallah, and from Chris Gomez in particular. They all had the pace of it. Had patience. It was very much Ross Smith who had the patience in the early phase of the race, and that is what has given him a chance. Jason Whitehead still pushing like stink in the hope that he can get the gap down between himself and Brian Hall. Brian Hall seems to have found a little bit of speed to counter-attack, but there is Hall by comparison to Whitehead. Not a lot in it. You can see the two cars in front are going to be back markers, so Whitehead needs to get past those two pretty dramatically. But this is not easy now for Whitehead. He's obviously got to throw everything he can at Brian Hall, but he's got to commit. Incredibly. So So can Whitehead really get that gap down between himself and Brian Hall? It's at 4.5 seconds. Jason Whitehead gets a 1 minute 50.0 compared to Hall on a 1:52.4.
3.6 seconds in it. Whitehead is pushing. Now, Hall actually has some traffic ahead of him. However, as we can see on screen, Whitehead is also dealing with some traffic. Now, this will give him a little bit of a draft and hopefully a clean run through to the hairpin. He gets out of the way. He takes every inch of draft he can out of the Jag in front. Almost too much. Hall looked to be a little bit wide on his interaction with the lap traffic ahead as well. 2.1 seconds to go, 2 minutes to go.
Yeah, we are on the penultimate lap. Marwan El Adrisi has got 18 seconds over Brian. Has come down to 2 seconds between Hall and see it just how tight it is as Jason Whitehead in the Storm Rider Nissan is pushing the whole. He's trying to work his way around the traffic without tripping over. That was so tight for Jason Whitehead. He gets his way through one, through another, out through the long sweep. So can Jason Whitehead manage to find that little bit of time to himself and Brian Hall? There's 1.5 seconds between them. Whitehead is absolutely leaning on it out of Le Mans, down the Ullman Straight. He's going to have one more lap to catch and pass Brian Hall. Marwan El Adrisi already on the final lap.
Yeah, he's right there. He can see him. This is the time. The only cars, or there are no cars between Whitehead and Hall now for the first time in about 15 minutes. This is the time, this is the lap, 1.3 seconds down into turn 1. Lap traffic ahead of Hall. Whitehead through T1, nice and smooth. And Hall is now under some duress now because he's got 2 lap cars in front of him and Whitehead beating down his back. 0.9 of a second. Hall trying to go around the outside.
He got traffic.
Absolutely stuck on traffic. Whitehead drafting to the outside, but there's a lap car there. They're side by side into the hairpin.
Oh my goodness. This is the moment, and he's got them. He's got him. Absolutely beautifully timed from Jason Whitehead. He knits his way through on the final lap to dive his way past Brian Hall. He committed. Spectacular from Jason Whitehead as he charges his way through.
And just on cue, El Adrisi onto the back straight is about to hit sunset, so it was well and truly well called,
but
Jake. Well and truly the last lap.
Come. This is it. Marwan El Adrisi has done an amazing job. He was sideswiped by Ben Borman in the opening couple of laps. How he's managed to come through for the victory is phenomenal. Marwan El Adrisi wins the Sebring 1.2 hours of the VWSC 1991 Sports Car Championship. Excellent from Marwan El Adrisi. Jason Whitehead never gave up. Pushed doggedly, caught Brian Hall, and stormed into second place on the last lap. What a hero's drive. Whitehead second, Brian Hall third. It's a class win in the Purist category for Ross Smith. He will come through in 4th overall, and he is going to be mighty ecstatic with that. Ross Smith out of the final turn, out of sunset. And Ross Smith takes the victory in the Purist category. Great drop. It is going to be James Andrew in second and George Angelidis in third. Here comes Jacques Vermeulen out of Jean de Bien and on the run to Le Mans. And it's going to be a team 1-2 as Vermeulen will run in front of his teammate, Paul J. Venter. Both drivers will be in the top 10 overall as well. They can be very happy with that, as Eric Moyne is only going to be 17th overall. What a battle, Troy, and what a great, great race.
Yeah, well done. I mean, again, there was no stability in the lead of the race or the understanding of who our players were up until the last little go there. And I don't know that El Adrisi is fully aware that the flag has flown because he's still pushing like crazy on this last lap, but he has done it. He has won it. And I think the Gasoline Aftershave Bros Nissan wants to make doubly sure that this win is going to count, so put in another flyer just to be safe. But no, it is over. And, oh no, there he goes. He just wanted a full flyer to get back.
He
into
enjoyed
the pit
himself.
lane.
He enjoyed his run at Sebring, and what a victory it was. Excellent from Marwan El-Idrisi as he comes home. And it's a victory for Gasoline Aftershave Brothers Nissan. What a result, and what a great, great performance from Marwan El-Idrisi. We will hear from him shortly, but here's the provisional result. It's El-Idrisi who takes the win from Jason Whitehead and Brian Hall, then Ross Smith and Wouter de Bruin. John Uyan in 6th place. So Ross Smith taking the Purist victory. Jacques Vermeulen in 7th overall takes the AM victory. Andrew in 8th in front of George Angelidis and Paul J. Venter. Outside the top 10, Matthew Overton coming home in 11th place in front of Gilles Lalonde and Jerry Chen. Manuel Stoll ahead of Peter Mayer. And then Steve Carman ahead of Eric Moynet, John Mayer, Tom Aiken, and Barry DiMarzo in the Lucky Strike Mazda. Ed Jones in 21st in front of Mark Jones. And Oscar Dancourt ahead of Dan Minguez. Stephen Miller and Maximilian Petrovsky ahead of Bran Nielsen Vestergaard. Eugene Mazur in 28th. But the retirements, there were some dramatic ones. Ben Borman out of 3rd position. He could have won this one. Joe Miller retiring from the race in the Storm Rider car. Ahmed Abdallah led in the early stages and got pole position. Could easily have won himself. Guy Sever out of the race in the Lavish Spenders Jaguar. And Pedro Crulis Gomez ran as high as 3rd in the early stages. Jacob Kowalski, unfortunate to be taken out after his little contact with Borman. And then Tom Mountjoy and Brandon Gant unable to finish the full distance either. But what a battle it has been in the Sebring 1.2 hours here in America. Next week, we'll do it all again for the Hypercar and GT battle at the Virtual World Sports Car Championship. Then, of course, we'll go to Long Beach for the 1 hours at April the 2nd, and 230 kilometers of Suzuka await us on April 16th. What a terrific battle we have had in the 1.2 hours of Sebring. Troy, magic racing from the start.
It was it was quite frantic. As soon as I thought we were actually in for a little bit of a stable run through most of it, because in the beginning we sort of had our key players, but then it was just mistake after spin after lockup and it just kept getting crazier and crazier. And yeah, I mean, the Group C cars didn't disappoint in Daytona. They didn't disappoint here in Sebring. I very much doubt they will disappoint in Suzuka. But yes, as you say, we have the hypercars will be back here, same place, same time next week. And do appreciate Jake Sanson, as always, is here to bring the action. We do apologize for some of the connection issues. We do the best we can to bring it. Bring the action to you guys, and I do apologize that there was some stuttering with R Factor, some connection issues on our end. So obviously keep improving the product and keep bringing it to you guys. But either way, we hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed it. And thanks again, Jake.
No problem at all. Let's see if we can get Ross Smith into the booth to talk about his fantastic battle for the victory in one of the craziest races you could ever ask for. From the Purist category. Ross Smith is waiting, so let's have a word with him. Ross, just a bonkers race at Sebring, one of the toughest, I'm sure, that you've ever had to deal with, and what a terrific race battle for you. Did you genuinely think coming into this that the win was on?
No, I mean, these guys are really strong, and this place is a jackhammer. So I was, especially after my MNRL race earlier in the week at this place, it was a total disaster. So that was kind of hanging overhead. But yeah, it was a pleasant surprise.
So with there being so many drivers up for the battle, just how important was it to keep focus when there were so many drivers dropping by the wayside?
Oh, that was actually part of the strategy. Just knowing that, especially with the Mercedes, seeing how they performed on Tuesday, they just became a total handful, even though they're rocket ships on the straights. Just trying to pick through the debris field as the race would go on. So it was definitely in the cards.
And obviously, with the way that the strategy played out as well, it just seemed like you just read the situation in a very balanced manner. You didn't really want to overexert the car. You just wanted to make sure the tires lasted.
You might be giving me a little bit of credit there, because I definitely was whipping the ponies. But But yeah, obviously the tires, there's a strategy there. I talked with Ben just before the race, and he last second switched to hards, which, of course, that makes me wonder if that was a strategy. But I just stayed with the softs, knowing that that's what I'd been on, so I didn't want to try and upset the balance and just going right into the race.
Fair play. Great driving. Any questions there from you, Troy, but to wrap up with Ross?
Yeah, so with the Purist category, we obviously have our big players, Borman, Abdallah, and you said yourself it was a bit of a shock to be up there. Any, I don't know, hope that you could keep this going then? We know that they're quick, but anything can happen in these races. So is this the only one you think? Or you think, obviously, if you're right there with them, anything that happens to those guys, as we saw today, you can be in there? Or do you think you can challenge them on raw pace as well?
Oh, I think the Peugeot especially has a lot of flexibility in the setup, and it really plays to both my driving style and Ben's driving style. I saw that he dropped out, so I'm assuming that he either got wrapped up in somebody or he was having technical issues again, unfortunately, because obviously he had a lot of pace in the car, and I mean they're strong. We've seen 2 tracks already, Sebring and Daytona, where you have really long straights, so that benefits the faster cars that are in the top end. But it's going to be kind of nothing but twisties from here on out for a while. So I think it's going to be, you're going to see all brands represented at the pointy end.
Fantastic. It was really great to watch the race, Ross. Thank you very much, and a great victory in the Purist category. Great job. Well done.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for everything you're doing. This is great.
Well, we're loving it. And unfortunately, Troy, it looks as though we don't have either Marouane El Idrissi or Jacques Vermeulen to speak. Fantastic end, though, and a great race. It really bodes well for next week. I think we're in for another great show.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to see the hypercars throw around here with GT traffic. And we saw how easy it is to drop a wheel, to hit those high curbs. The curbs aren't low. I mean, they're not pure, like, let's just run on, not little rumble strips. I mean, they're curbs. And we saw that catch a few people out. And especially the cars going onto the back straight on the run towards Sunset, and how many cars were drifting out wide. Those are flat curbs, wide curbs, and they still wanted more track. The hypercars and the GTs will have even more apex speed than these guys do. So it'll be very interesting.
Well, if you want great motor racing entertainment, if you want great drama, then stick around. Next week, we'll do it all again in the Virtual World Sports Car Championship with the hypercars and GTs who will come out to play. The 1991 race, though, will always be remembered in 2022 as the race barely anybody wanted to win. Congratulations to Marouane El Idrissi. We'll be back to do it all again next week, same time, same place.